Hello friends, my name is Bahroz and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I will talk about the top 10 interview questions. I will share with you those top 10 interview questions, but I will also explain how you can go about answering them. Now, what do I mean by top 10 interview questions? These are the questions which you should most expect to be asked in an interview. Where did I get these top 10 questions from? Well, what I did was I went on ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT to crawl through the web and find me the top 10 questions that have been asked in various interviews, various job interviews, and it gave me a list of top 10 questions. So what I did was I went through the list and I was like, yes, these are actually the questions that are most commonly asked in an interview. The reason I know this is because I've been an interviewer myself and have interviewed throughout my career numerous candidates. Apart from that, I also coach and train candidates and my followers and subscribers to become better interviewer in order for them to land their dream job. Now, before moving forward, I have to ask for you. 1, press the like button as this keeps me motivated. 2, press the subscribe button along with the bell icon. Very important, along with the bell icon, so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. On this channel, I post content pertaining to financial and career success. Regarding me, I'm a finance executive. I've been in the industry for past 18 years and still currently working in the industry, worked in Fortune 500 companies. And as my passion project, I work on teaching and doing career coaching and career counseling. So in case any of this topic, which is around career and financial freedom, is important to you, please make sure you like and subscribe this video. Now let's move into the topic. What I will do is I will share with you those 10 questions and make sure you stay tuned till the end of this video, because my 2 favorite questions, which I believe are asked in 99.99% of the interviews, I will leave them towards the end because I want to put some special emphasis on those questions and explain them in detail. So I've kept them towards the end. So make sure you stay tuned till the end and go through all these 10 important questions. Now I have the list in front of me. So the first question that you should expect to be asked is, what interests you about this position? Very important question, because they want to know, why do you want to join this company or this role? Here you have to break this answer that you will give to them in 2 parts. One is, why are you interested in terms of what are your skills, what is that you bring on the table, and second is, what will you gain out of it? So you want to tell them what will they gain out of you, and you want to also tell them what will you gain out of this. Now, for most part, or many people just leave the question or leave their answer talking about what will the interviewer or the organization will gain out of them, because they are just in a selling mode. However, it is equally important that you also tell them what is that you want to gain out of this particular role or this particular assignment. Not just because it is important for you to gain something out and it is important for you to tell them what you want out of this assignment. It is also a matter of you sharing with them that you are self-aware. You are not just here for one-way transaction. Rather, you are an intelligent person, you're self-aware, and you know what you want and what you can give. It just shows maturity. That's it. Now, of course, it will also give them an indication as to what you are looking for and if they can provide you that or not, and how they can work it for you. All of those things are important. But for me, the most important part is that you show maturity by asking this question. So first, you tell them what your strengths are, or what your qualifications are, or what your experience has been. And using that experience, how you can deliver the things that they want to get delivered, the assignments that they're working on, the projects they're working on, or the kind of skill level that they're looking for. So for instance, if they talk about they're looking for communication, leadership, collaboration, you can always talk about your experiences in leadership, in communication, in collaboration in past, and these are your strengths, or these are your motivation areas, and you can bring all of this with you when you join the organization. However, at the same time, these are 1 or 2, 3 things that you would want to learn from this particular role, because otherwise, why would you be leaving? If you are already doing exactly the same role as they are hiring you for, why would you be leaving? Now, you may be leaving just for a better package. That's fine, that's fair. However, you just don't say that, right? You just don't go about saying that just because you're paying me more, I can do the same job for you versus what I was doing in another company. You also want to, as I said, look mature, and you want to show that you are also here to develop and grow and challenge, because you are that kind of individual who is into growing and developing themselves. And you only grow and develop not just by earning more money, but by learning something new. So you have to find some angle. Either the industry is different, either the company is different, the product is slightly different, the market is different, something or the other about the assignment which is slightly different versus what you were doing before, and hence that is the part that you will learn. While rest of the part of the assignment is similar to what you've done before, and hence you will contribute with that. So there's part of the assignment that you've done before because you have experience, and you will contribute with that part and pay to the company, while there's part of the assignment which is fresh. Now this is where you will get challenged, this is where you will learn, because they also want to know or be assured that it is a good marriage. It's not like you coming in and you knowing everything and eventually after 6 months you're just bored, because it's the same thing that you've done before and you're just repeating it. So you want to assure them that you will not get bored. There's part of the assignment that you've done before, you can ace it, and then there's a part of assignment which will challenge you, which will grow you. Now, moving on to the second question is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I have made, I think, 2 or 3 videos exactly on this topic. You can check it out. I will leave the link in the description of this video. But when you talk about strengths and weakness, you can always break them into 2 different answers. Now, talking about strengths, it's kind of slightly difficult to talk about strengths because it sounds pompous. What I usually recommend is talk about your motivations. So maybe flip the question, say, maybe it's better for me to talk about my motivations, because strength means that I'm very strong at it and there is less or no room to learn or grow further. However, that's not the case. So even things which I believe I'm good at, there is still so much for me to learn in those areas as well. So you want to come from a place of humbleness versus arrogance. And hence it is best to say, I rather answer this question in terms of what motivates me, because usually what motivates me or where my passion is are things where I get attracted and I eventually end up doing better. So things which motivate me are X, Y, Z. Now make sure these are the things which are also things that they're looking for. So for instance, if they're looking for someone who can come in the organization and can transform the team, and then you talk about transformation. So I have strong motivation, strong passion for transformation. I've done multiple projects on transformation, and then you can give some examples as well. But keep it very brief. Like, you don't have to go deep in the examples. You just have to give a summary of what you've done in the similar area. For instance, if they talk about digital marketing, so you can always say, I have passion and strong motivation for digital marketing. I've done it before as well in my particular assignments and companies, and I've learned numerous tools and skills in order to get better at it, and I continue to focus more and more on it. And lo and behold, they are also looking for digital marketing as a strength, and hence you become a good match. Now, second part, which is also a challenging part in its own way, which is, what are your weaknesses? Now, you don't give a weakness which is already a strength they're looking for. So for instance, if they're looking for someone who can communicate well, don't talk about communication. Someone who is a good leader, don't talk about leadership being a weakness. Talk about something which is not part of what they are looking for. Usually it is something to do with management or organization of the work. So for instance, you can say that I get agitated if I don't get response in time with regards to a question that I have asked, because I'm very action oriented. So if I don't get the inputs and the answers to my questions in time, then I get frustrated, which is not good. So then they will ask, or they will expect you to also know what is the solve. So whatever weakness you have, it is okay to have the weakness. Everyone has weakness. There are 2 things you want to do. One is tell them that you are aware of the weakness, and second, that you have a solve. So the solve for this particular weakness is that I tell myself, or I give the people who I am asking for inputs and questions a timeline. I say, okay, this is the amount of time they have. Rather, I ask them how much time will they take, and they give me a timeline, and then I use that timeline to track and check on them. So I don't go and follow up with them on every other day. Rather, I wait till that timeline is delivered or till that timeline has passed, and only then go and follow up with them. So net, again, make sure the weakness is not something which is detrimental, like nothing which they are looking for. And also there are some standard things that every company is looking for, like collaboration. You can't be a person who goes like, I don't like working with people. They will hire you and you are supposed to work in a team, and you are expected to work in a team. You can't just go about saying that I'm bad in communicating. You should not say that as well. Communication is like the core thing that anyone is looking for. So there are certain elements, and again, I've talked about them broadly and expansively in the videos I've created exactly on the subject, so check them out. Now let's move to the next question I have from ChatGPT, which is, how do you handle stress and pressure? And this is kind of similar to what I talked about in the weakness. Here, the idea is that you need to talk about how you make use of systems and tools. So you have to talk about how you make use of your calendar, how you make use of a timetable, how you make use of different tools at your disposal, like your email is a tool, your chat is a tool, corporate chat that you use, your calendar is a tool. How do you make use of these tools? Technology is a tool in order to make sure that you're not stressed. So one thing is just planning well. If you plan well, if you have proper timelines defined, and if you have built proper buffers between the timelines as well. So there's a project you're working on. First, it is important that you plan the project. You plan it and pencil down every element of it, like timings, owners. Then you make sure you align it with others as well. Then you make sure you also align it with others. So all others, which are all other stakeholders, are also aligned to the timelines that you have put in there and their ownership that you've plugged in that particular timeline. So once that is done, then you put in some buffers between the timeline just to make sure that you don't crash the entire project, because there are buffers and you can always use those buffers. And last but not the least, making sure that you constantly connect and update yourself, which is, let's say, have a weekly meeting where you get progress update or you share progress update, just to make sure that everyone is on track. And if someone is going off track, and even if you end up using your buffer, and even if the plan is falling apart, at least it won't be a surprise to you, because you are following up on regular basis, so you are updated and you can always course correct. So by having these tools, these systems, you are able to minimize stress and pressure. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question I have with me is, describe a challenging situation you faced at work and how you dealt with it. This question is a typical behavioral question. What you're expected to do is think of an example from work where you came up with a difficult situation and how did you go about solving that problem. Here, make sure it's a big highlight, like it's a big project from your past. The idea, or the best advice here that I can give you, is before going in the interview, just list down your top 5 highlights or examples from past, like top 5 projects. List them down and make sure you refresh your memory as to what you did in those projects. Keep them with you. When such a question is asked, just jog your memory again and think which of the example is best suited to answer that particular question. And given it is a big highlight, a key project that you delivered, you will be able to talk at length about that project. However, make sure here you talk in the CAR context, which is C for context, A for action, R for results. So CAR model. I made a separate video on this. I will leave the link here and also in the description of this video, where I explain how you can use and efficiently use the CAR model, which is share the context of the situation that happened, what were the actions that you took, and then what were the results. Now, context is important, and make it very simple, because you may be coming from a very different background, a different industry, a different company, and you may start using some terminologies that the person who is interviewing you may not understand. So core tip or key tip on the context is make it very simple. I say, or I call it the grandma rule, which is if you can go and explain the context to your grandma, for which you have to make it very simple, then it is success. If you can explain it to your grandma, you can explain it to anyone, and talk as if you're talking to your grandma. In action, you have to talk as to what action you took, why you took it, and more importantly, how you took it. The how piece is something that people miss. They just go about saying, oh, I analyzed the data and that's it. You have to say why you analyze the data, what is that you analyze the data. So you analyze the data, which is the what, why you analyze the data, because it would have helped you solve the problem or identify the issue behind the problem, and how did you do it. That you collected the data, then you analyzed it by creating some charts or doing a regression analysis, and then you aligned with the key stakeholders or the experts. So have a complete story. Don't just talk about what you did. You also have to talk about why you did and how you did it, because this happened to you in past, and the same problem won't happen again. The interviewer knows this. You're going in a different company, in a different role, in a different industry maybe, and the same situation may not be repeated. Rather, it will not be repeated. It will be a completely new situation. However, as long as you know how to solve it, the formula, which is you will run the regression analysis, let's say as an example, then they know that you are someone who can always use this approach and formula to solve any other issue that will come in the role that you are joining. Hope this helps. Now let's move on to the next question I have from ChatGPT. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Beautiful question. Again, I've made a separate video on this. I will leave the link here, also in the description of this video. Make sure you check it out. But here the idea is all about self-awareness and also an element of selling yourself. Selling yourself by talking about how ambitious, how growth-oriented are you, and how you want to develop. Because any interviewer would want to hire, or any hiring manager would want to hire someone who's hungry, who when they join, they just want to get the work done and give it their best. Why would you give it your best? The only way, or the only reason you'll give it your best is because if you're motivated to grow. Otherwise, if you're not about growing, then the motivation to do above and beyond is less. Like, you will do your day job, but what will make you go above and beyond? What will make you go above and beyond is the hunger. So you have to show your hunger here. And what you need to tell here is, or indicate here, is that in the next 5 years, you want to grow and develop. Now, you don't need to say that I want to get promoted. Maybe that doesn't sound humble, but what you have to say, or what you should be saying, is that I want to develop the skills and understand the business and all that is required in order to grow further in the company, in the role, get more challenging assignments and get more projects and have a bigger team, bigger impact, bigger scope. So just talk about your scope, impact, team, and projects and challenges. When you talk about growing that means you will get promoted, because you will only be working on those challenges and projects if you have a higher skyline. You are eventually saying that, but saying in a very smart way and intelligent way. Second, it is important that you should be self-aware, because they want to hire someone who knows what they are getting into and who has understanding of where they want to reach, versus just blindly taking the job, not realizing where this job will take you, and then also making sure that whether this job will take you there or not. So all of this is combined. Make sure you say something which you know this job will eventually help you deliver. So for instance, if they are hiring you at a role for which there is no further growth, then maybe you don't talk about skyline. You just talk about different challenges in terms of moving across departments, versus growing up in the company, you move across departments, and something on those lines. Let's move to the next question. The next question I have is, why should we hire you for this role? As I've been saying for each of the questions before, I've made a separate video on this as well, as to why we should hire you for this role. This should be very simple. What you need to do is first list down what are your passion points, what is that motivates you, what are your strengths, who you are, like what do you bring on the table. Put that down, then go in the job description and find out the key things they are looking for. Ideally, there should be a good match. If there's a good match, you're in good hands. You're going in an organization, in a role where you will be happy, you will be motivated, because your strengths will be at play. If there are some different elements here, then look if you can find those elements within the key projects or assignments or your key strengths that you've listed down. So for instance, they're looking for communication. Now, you didn't list down communication, but communication is almost everywhere in the key strengths that you have. Let's say your strengths are about strategy, about leadership. That includes communication. So if that has communication, then you can do a check mark. So all you need to do is make sure that you check whatever your strengths are, they're available in the job description. And if they're not, you bake or you work on your strengths, because in the interview, when you are asked this question, you need to tell them what are your strengths, and not from the angle of what your strengths are, rather what you bring to the table. Like, you're someone who is motivated by strategy, who's motivated by problem solving, who is into analysis. And this is what really motivates you. This is what you bring on the table. I know in your job description, these are the things that you're looking for. And I am a strong individual who can deliver on these things because I've done it in the past. This motivates me. And I continue to have a lot of curiosity in these areas. And maybe if you have one or two examples from the past, you can just share a title of those examples. Like, I worked on a growth strategy for a particular market or a particular business because I love strategy. I have experience with strategy development and tracking and so on and so forth. Next one I have is, can you give me an example of a time when you demonstrated leadership? My friend, you will always get a leadership question. You will never come in an interview situation where there will be no leadership question. Even if you have not been a people leader in the past, or you are not expected to be a people leader. Leadership is not just about managing people. Leadership is about taking lead of the project as well, your assignment, your task. So you will always be asked a leadership question. Make sure you prepare a strong example for this question. Rather, when you list down your key highlights that you have to share or want to share in the interview, make sure you leave the best highlight, the top highlight, to answer the leadership question, because leadership question can be answered through multiple examples in past. However, keep your best example to address the leadership question. Your top highlight, some achievement from your past which you're really proud of and passionate about for leadership. For the most interviews, if you do average on a leadership question and do best on all other questions, probably there is less chance you'll get hired. Rather, if you do best in the leadership question, like your answer is one of the best answers, and all other questions have average answers, there is a good chance you will still get hired. So make sure you are super prepared for handling the leadership question and throw it out of the park. Now let's move to the next question. The next question I have listed in front of me is, how do you prioritize and manage your time effectively? This one is very simple. All you need to do is you need to talk about the prioritization grid, like what is urgent, what is important. You put everything on a grid of what is urgent, urgency and important, and then basis that you decide. Something which is urgent and important needs to be delivered now. Something which is not urgent, not important needs to be cancelled. It is not required to be done. Something which is important needs more time and has to be done in a proper way with proper resources. Something which is only urgent has to be done in a very minimal viable product way, like something which can be done very quickly as against putting a lot of time around it. So you kind of structure all your work through this lens. Also, you make sure that you talk about how you seek input from stakeholders on this as well. It's not just you prioritizing different projects. You're also seeking input from others, from your manager as well. So when you talk about this grid of urgency and important, it will look smart on you. Let's move to the next question I have, which is, now I'm moving to the last two questions, and these two questions are my favorite. So one is, introduce yourself. This is the first question you will be asked, and I've made a mega video, one of the best videos which perform very well on my channel. People really like it. Check it out, where I talk about how you should go about introducing yourself. This is the first question that you will be asked. This is usually not graded, and if you come prepared and start the interview on a very strong footing, rest of the interview will be a breeze. So make sure you check it out. But essentially what I want to leave you with in this video is, don't just talk about your profession, also talk about your personal character as well, your personality as well. People like to hire people who they enjoy working with, who have good personalities, who can collaborate well. Like, the interviewer should go out of the interview and say, I want to work with this person. And that won't be just because you have the right skills, but also because you have the right personality, the right match with the culture. So highly encourage you check out the video. Last question is, tell me if you have any questions for us, or do you have any questions for us? This is like reverse interview questions. This is usually typically towards the end of the interview, and similar to introduce yourself, this is also not graded. It's just a courtesy call if you have any questions for us. Never say I don't have any questions. This will look dumb. Always have questions. And this is a segment which you can prepare in advance. Rather, you can even list down your questions and don't have to memorize it. When the segment comes, you can go, okay, I have a list of questions with me. You can look down and then read from the paper directly. You don't have to think on the spot what questions you will be asking. Just prepare them, write them down, and when you're asked this question, look at your notes and ask them exactly what you have to ask them. I made a separate video on this as well, where I talk exactly what kind of questions you should be asking in order for you to succeed in the interview and look good in the interview and get eventually hired. I highly recommend you check out that video. Hopefully all these 10 questions were the questions you were looking answers for as well. If in case you were, this was the right video for you and would be helpful for you to go and prepare for your interview. In case you like the video, I'm sure you'll also like another video on my channel where I talk about how you can control your nerves in an interview. You can check it out here. Other than that, there is another video where I talk about some tricks that you can use in order to ace your virtual interview. You can check it out here. Thank you.